Before we get into this, do me a favor. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is right now. And if this story makes you check your windows tonight, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're ready for more real military horror encounters. Now let's begin. October 2020. Daniel Boone National Forest, Kentucky. That's where I learned that some things in nature aren't natural at all. That's where 7 of my brothers died because we ignored a warning we should have taken seriously. That's where I saw things that looked like deer, until your brain registered they weren't. Until you noticed details that didn't fit. Until you understood you were looking at something wearing a deer's shape like a disguise. My name is Corporal David Stone, 24 years old, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, and I'm one of 3 people who survived an encounter with things the Appalachian locals call not deer. Things that hunt in the Kentucky mountains. Things that look almost right until you realize they're completely wrong. We were 10 Marines, standard mountain warfare training exercise, 2 weeks in Daniel Boone National Forest learning vertical navigation, cold weather survival, high-angle shooting, the kind of training that prepares you for Afghanistan, for mountain combat, for operating in difficult terrain against human enemies. Nobody prepared us for what actually lived in those mountains. Our team leader was Staff Sergeant Oliver Chadwick, 32, 2 deployments. Good man, careful, by the book, the kind of NCO who kept his Marines alive through attention to detail and refusal to cut corners. He'd survive this. So would Private First Class Emma Mitchell and Lance Corporal James Rodriguez. The rest wouldn't. We inserted via truck convoy to a trailhead near Red River Gorge. The plan was simple. Hike 12 miles to a designated rally point, establish base camp, conduct training exercises for 10 days, extract via the same route. Textbook operation. We'd done similar training a dozen times in different locations, but Kentucky felt different from the start. The locals at the small town where we staged, Slade, population maybe 300, they looked at us weird when we mentioned where we were going. Not hostile, just concerned. Like we'd announced plans to do something obviously stupid, and they were wondering if we knew what we were getting into. "Y'all be careful out there," the gas station clerk said when Chadwick bought supplies. Old woman, maybe 70, with the kind of weathered face that comes from living your whole life in the mountains, especially at night. You see any deer that don't look right, you get away from them. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to get a closer look, just leave. Chadwick smiled politely. "Ma'am, we're trained for wildlife encounters. Bears, coyotes, we know the protocols. Ain't talking about bears." She leaned forward, her voice dropping. "I'm talking about the deer that stand wrong, the ones that watch you, the ones your gut tells you to run from even though they look like deer. You see those? You get out of that area fast as you can. They mostly leave people alone if you respect their territory. But you camp where they don't want you. They'll come." "Not deer," another local said from the corner of the store. Younger guy, maybe 40, wearing hunting camo. "That's what we call 'em. Look like deer, ain't deer. You'll know when you see one. Your brain will tell you something's wrong even if you can't figure out what. Listen to your brain." Chadwick thanked them. We left, and in the truck, we laughed. Mountain superstition. Local folklore meant to scare city folks and tourists. We were United States Marines. We'd operated in Helmand Province, in Fallujah, in actual combat zones against actual enemies. We weren't worried about deer that stand wrong. We should have been. The hike to our rally point took 6 hours. Beautiful country. Dense hardwood forest transitioning to pine at higher elevations. Steep ridges, narrow hollers, rock formations that looked like natural fortifications. October meant the leaves were changing. Reds, oranges, yellows, creating a canopy of color above us. We saw plenty of deer, normal deer, white-tailed, medium-sized, browsing on vegetation or bounding away when they caught our scent. Typical behavior. Nothing unusual, nothing that matched what the locals had warned about. We established base camp in a clearing about a quarter-mile from a cliff edge overlooking the Red River Valley. Good tactical position, high ground, clear sight lines, water source nearby. Chadwick was particular about camp setup, proper spacing between tents, designated latrine area away from camp, food stored in bear-proof containers hung from trees, perimeter awareness even though this was training, not combat. First watch rotation starts at 2000, Chadwick announced after camp was set. 2-hour shifts, 2 Marines per shift. Everyone else gets sleep. Tomorrow, we start vertical training on those cliff faces. The sun set around 1930. We ate MREs, went over the next day's training schedule, told the usual bullshit stories Marines tell. Normal deployment routine transplanted to a Kentucky forest. By 2000, most of us were in our tents. Corporal Mike Santos and Private Jake Williams took first watch. I was asleep by 2100. Deep sleep, the kind you get after a long hike with a heavy pack. I'd sleep until my watch shift at 0200. 4 hours of rest before pulling security for 2 hours, then back to sleep. I woke to Santos shaking my shoulder at 0145. Early. Stone. Wake up, need you to see something. His voice was tight, controlled, but I heard the edge in it. Something had rattled him. I pulled on my boots, grabbed my rifle, followed him out of the tent. The night was clear. 3/4 moon providing decent illumination. Cool temperature, maybe 50 degrees. Williams was at the northern perimeter, looking into the forest with NVGs, night vision goggles. "What's up?" I asked, quietly. "Deer," Santos said. "Lot of them. Been gathering at the tree line for the past 20 minutes, just standing there, watching us." I looked where he indicated, and I saw them, maybe 15 or 20 deer, standing at the edge of the clearing, motionless, just standing, staring toward our camp. That's weird behavior, I admitted. Deer usually run from human presence, especially at night, especially this many together. "Yeah, that's what I thought. But look closer." Santos handed me his NVGs. I raised the night vision and focused on the deer. The greenish image resolved, and my brain stuttered, because something was wrong. I couldn't immediately identify what, but looking at those deer through night vision triggered an instinctive wrongness in my head, like seeing a photograph that's been subtly altered, like looking at a familiar face with the proportions slightly off. "You see it?" Santos asked. "I see something, but I can't." "Their legs," Williams said from his position. "Look at their legs." I focused on one deer, looked at its legs, and then I saw it, the joints. They bent wrong, not forward like a deer's legs should bend, but backward. Like a human leg. Like the knee was on backwards, and once I saw it on one, I saw it on all of them. Every single deer standing at that tree line had legs that bent the wrong direction. What the hell? I lowered the NVGs. Without night vision, in just moonlight, they looked normal, like regular deer. But with the NVGs, the wrongness was obvious. "There's more," Santos said. "Watch them for a minute." I watched. The deer stood motionless, staring toward the camp. Not grazing, not moving, just watching. And then one of them, slowly, deliberately, stood up on its hind legs. It rose from a four-legged stance to standing upright, like a human standing up, like a person in a deer costume. And it was tall, taller than any deer should be, maybe 6.5 feet when fully upright. Its front legs, or arms, or whatever they were, hung at its sides. Its neck extended upward, too long, too thin, supporting a head that was deer-shaped but proportioned wrong. And it stared directly at our camp, directly at us, with eyes that reflected the moonlight wrong. Not the typical eye shine you get from deer at night, but red, deep red, predator eyes, not prey eyes. "I'm waking Chadwick," I said. By 0200, all 10 of us were awake, standing at the perimeter, looking at the tree line. The deer, the not deer, I was starting to understand that's what the locals meant, had increased in number. Maybe 25 now, some on 4 legs, some on 2, all watching us, none making any sound. Deer make sounds. Snorts, bleats, hoof sounds when they move. These made nothing. Silent as death. "Okay," Chadwick said quietly. "That's not normal deer behavior. That's not any kind of wildlife behavior I've ever seen." "They've been there for almost an hour," Santos reported. "Just watching. Not approaching, not leaving, just watching." "The locals warned us," Mitchell said. Her voice was steady, but I heard the fear underneath. "They said deer that look wrong, deer that stand wrong. This is what they meant." "Are those things actually deer?" Rodriguez asked. "Or something else?" "Don't know," Chadwick replied. "But we're not engaging, we're observing, maintaining perimeter security. If they approach, we'll reassess. But right now they're not threatening us. They're just there." We maintained full watch rotation for the rest of the night. The not deer stayed at the tree line, watching. Occasionally, one would drop to 4 legs. Another would stand up. They'd shift positions slightly, but they never approached closer than maybe 50 yards. Never made a sound, never stopped watching. At dawn, 0630, they left. Not all at once. Gradually. One would turn and walk back into the forest. Then another. Then 3 more. By 0700, they were gone. Just melted back into the woods like they'd never been there. We searched the tree line, found tracks, lots of them. Deer tracks. Normal deer tracks showing cloven hooves, standard deer gait pattern. But the sheer number of tracks, all in one area, all facing our camp. That wasn't normal. And some of the tracks showed a bipedal gait. Deer walking on 2 legs. The hoof prints were spaced like human footsteps. Left, right, not the 4-point pattern of a quadruped. "We need to report this," Mitchell said. "Report what?" Chadwick countered. "That we saw weird deer? That local folklore might be real. Command will think we're losing it. So we just ignore it? We document it, we stay alert, we complete our training mission. But unless those things actively threaten us, we're not calling in a QRF because some deer stood on their hind legs." We spent that day on cliff face training, rappelling, ascending, moving laterally across vertical rock. Good training. Kept our minds occupied. But we all kept looking at the forest. Kept expecting to see those things watching us from the trees. They weren't there during the day. We saw normal deer. Regular whitetails behaving normally. Browsing, moving through the forest, running when they saw us. Nothing unusual. But we all knew what was coming when the sun went down. Second night, same thing. Around 2000, they appeared at the tree line. More of them this time. Maybe 30. Same behavior. Standing, watching, some on 4 legs, some on 2. Silent. Eyes reflecting wrong. Joints bending wrong. Proportions wrong. "Why are they watching us?" Williams asked. What do they want? Maybe they're territorial, Santos suggested. Maybe we're camping in their area and they're trying to intimidate us into leaving. Or maybe they're hunting us, Rodriguez said quietly. Maybe they're studying us, learning our patterns, waiting for the right time to attack. Deer don't hunt humans, Chadwick said, but his voice lacked conviction. Because whatever those things were, they weren't deer. Not really. They just looked like deer until you paid attention, until you noticed the details that didn't fit. Third night. They got closer, not 50 yards anymore, maybe 30. We could see them clearly now, even without NVGs. Could see the wrongness. The two long necks, the backwards joints. The way they moved when they shifted position. Smooth, calculated, nothing like the jerky movements of actual deer. And we could see their teeth. When they opened their mouths, not to make sound, they still made no sound, we could see their teeth. Not herbivore teeth, not the flat grinding teeth deer use for vegetation. Sharp teeth, pointed, carnivore teeth, too many of them, arranged wrong in jaws that extended too far back. We need to leave, Mitchell said on the fourth night. This training isn't worth whatever this is. We need to extract early and report this to command. Chadwick was quiet for a long moment. Then, agreed. We pack out at first light. 12-mile hike back to the trucks. We'll write this up as environmental hazards requiring early extraction. Command doesn't need to know about the not deer. They just need to know we couldn't safely complete training here. We started packing that night, quietly, efficiently, breaking down camp while maintaining security. The not deer watched from the tree line. More of them now. 40, maybe 50. The entire clearing surrounded, but still not approaching. Still just watching. At 0300, Santos was packing his tent when he stopped. They're gone. We looked. The tree line was empty. Every single not deer had vanished. Silently. Completely. Like they'd never been there. Where did they go? Williams asked. And then we heard it. Behind us. From inside our camp. A sound like breathing. Wet, rattling breathing. Coming from the center of our camp where we'd stacked our packs. Chadwick raised his rifle. Flicked on his weapon light. The beam cut through the darkness and illuminated something standing among our gear. A not deer, but bigger than the others. Taller, maybe 7 feet when standing upright. And it was standing upright, right in the middle of our camp. Its neck was impossibly long, bent at angles that would break a normal spine. Its head tilted sideways, watching us with those red predator eyes. Its mouth hung open, showing rows of sharp teeth. Its front legs, arms, reached toward our supplies. It had hands. Not hooves, hands. 3-fingered, clawed, but recognizably hands, and it was going through our packs. Searching for something, deliberately, intelligently. "Get back!" Chadwick shouted. The thing's head snapped toward him, and it smiled. I swear to God it smiled. Its mouth stretched wide, too wide, showing all those teeth, and the expression was unmistakably a smile. Not animal. Human. A human expression on a face that wasn't human. Then it dropped to 4 legs and ran, impossibly fast, across our camp and into the forest in less than 2 seconds. Gone. "Pack now," Chadwick ordered. "We're leaving now. Forget first light. We move in 10 minutes. We threw everything together, speed over organization. Just get packed, get moving, get out of these mountains. We were Marines. We'd operated in war zones. We'd faced human enemies with guns and explosives. But this was different. This was wrong in ways that combat never was. By 0330, we were hiking. 10 Marines moving fast down the mountain trail. NVGs on, weapons ready. Chadwick on point. Mitchell on rear security. We covered maybe 2 miles in the first hour. Good pace for nighttime mountain hiking with full packs. At 0430, the sun still an hour from rising, William said, "They're following us." I looked back, and I saw them, paralleling our route through the forest, on both sides of the trail. Maybe 20 of them visible, but I knew there were more, staying hidden, pacing us, keeping distance but never letting us out of their sight. "Keep moving," Chadwick ordered. "Don't stop. Don't engage unless they attack. Just keep moving." We moved, fast as we could while maintaining noise discipline and tactical awareness. But they were faster. They moved through the forest like ghosts. No sound, no disturbed vegetation, just occasional glimpses of movement, of shapes that looked like deer until you focused on them and saw the wrongness. At 0515, we reached a narrow section of trail. Ridge on our left, steep drop on our right. Single file movement only, vulnerable position. We should have avoided it, should have found an alternate route. But we were focused on speed, on getting out. We were halfway through the narrow section when they came. Not from ahead or behind, from above, from the ridge. They'd been waiting there, positioned above us, and when we were committed to the narrow trail, they attacked. 3 of them came down the ridge side, moving on 2 legs, running like humans but faster, and they hit Private First Class Tom Anderson first. He was 4th in our column. They grabbed him, those hands closing around his arms, and pulled him off the trail, over the edge, into the darkness of the drop. Anderson screamed, once, then silence. "Contact! Contact right!" Chadwick was shouting. We were raising weapons, trying to acquire targets, but they were so fast, and it was still dark. And they looked like deer until they didn't. Another one came from our left, grabbed Private Ryan Foster, pulled him into the forest. We heard him fighting, heard him firing his rifle, saw muzzle flashes in the trees. Then nothing. "Defensive formation," Chadwick ordered. "Back to back, overlapping fields of fire." We formed up. 8 of us now. Anderson and Foster gone. Taken in less than 10 seconds. We stood in a tight circle on that narrow trail. Weapons out, lights scanning, looking for targets. They surrounded us. I could see them in the trees, on the ridge, below us on the slope. Maybe 30 of them, standing, watching, those red eyes reflecting our weapon lights. They weren't attacking now, just watching, waiting. "We can't stay here," Rodriguez said. "This position is shit. They have high ground. They have numbers. They have," one of them vocalized. First sound we'd heard from them. It wasn't an animal sound. It was worse. It was a voice. Human-like but wrong, speaking words that almost made sense but didn't. Like language played backwards. Like someone imitating human speech without understanding it. And then they all vocalized. All 30 of them, the same backwards language, the same wrong voice. Coordinating. Communicating. They weren't animals. They were something else. Something intelligent. Something that hunted in packs and used strategy and could speak. "Run!" Chadwick shouted. We ran. We ran down that mountain trail like the devil himself was chasing us. Maybe he was. Maybe those things were devils. They sure as hell weren't deer. 8 Marines, full combat load, running through darkness on a narrow mountain trail with a cliff drop on one side and a steep ridge on the other. Every tactical instinct screaming that this was wrong. This was how people died, running panicked through unknown terrain. But staying meant fighting, and you can't fight what you can't understand. They paced us, I could hear them moving through the forest parallel to the trail. Could see glimpses of movement in my peripheral vision, shapes that looked like deer, until you looked directly at them and saw the wrong proportions. The backwards joints, the two long necks, the red eyes. "How many?" Chadwick shouted from point position. "At least 20, Santos called back. "Both sides. They're herding us." He was right. They weren't just chasing us. They were controlling our route, keeping us on the trail, preventing us from going into the forest, forcing us toward what? What were they herding us toward? We found out 10 minutes later. The trail opened into a small valley, maybe 100 yards across, creek running through the center, dense forest on all sides, and in that valley, standing between us and the continuation of the trail on the far side, were more not deer. Dozens of them, standing upright, arranged in a semicircle, blocking our path. Behind us, the ones that had been pacing us emerged from the forest, closed off our retreat. We were surrounded, trapped in a valley with maybe 50 or 60 of these things. "Defensive positions," Chadwick ordered. "Take cover." We scattered to whatever cover was available. Fallen logs, rocks, depression in the ground, formed a rough perimeter. Weapons trained on the not deer. Fingers on triggers, but nobody fired. Because they weren't attacking. They were just standing there, watching us, waiting. "What do they want?" Mitchell asked. She was next to me behind a fallen oak. Her voice was controlled, but I could see her hands shaking. "I don't know," I admitted. "They could have killed us already if they wanted to. They're faster than us. They have numbers. They have position. But they're not attacking. So what are they doing?" Before I could answer, one of them stepped forward. Larger than the others, maybe 8 feet tall when standing fully upright. Its neck was impossibly long, extending up from its body at an angle that would snap a normal spine. Its head, deer-shaped but wrong, always wrong, tilted as it looked at us, and it spoke. Not the backwards language we'd heard before. English. Broken, distorted, like someone who'd learned to speak by listening to recordings played at the wrong speed, but unmistakably English. "You are in our territory." 8 Marines froze. Because animals don't speak. Cryptids might exist fine, we were looking at proof, but they don't speak human language. They don't communicate in words you can understand. "Chadwick," Rodriguez whispered. "Did that thing just—" "Yeah," Chadwick replied quietly. "It did." The large not deer tilted its head the other way. "You were warned, old woman told you. Leave if deer look wrong. You did not leave." "We're leaving now," Chadwick called out. "We'll go back the way we came. We'll leave your territory. Just let us pass." The not deer made a sound. Took me a second to recognize it. Laughter. It was laughing. That horrible, backwards-sounding laugh. Too late. You stayed. You watched us. Now, we will watch you. What do you want from us? Want? The creature seemed to consider this. Want to understand. Humans come. Humans leave. Fast. Scared. But you stayed. 4 nights. Watching. Learning. Now, we learn you. "We're not your science experiment," Mitchell said. "We're United States Marines. If you don't let us leave, our command will send more Marines, hundreds of them. They'll come looking for us." The not deer laughed again. "More humans, good. More to learn. More to add." Add to what? But it didn't answer. Instead, it dropped to 4 legs and charged. Not at us, at Corporal James Wilson. He was positioned slightly separated from the rest of us, behind a boulder on the right flank. The not deer covered 30 yards in maybe 2 seconds. Wilson fired. 3 round burst, center mass. The bullets hit. I saw the impacts, but the creature didn't slow, didn't stumble, just kept coming. It grabbed Wilson with those 3-fingered hands, lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. Wilson was fighting, punching, trying to bring his rifle around. The not deer brought him close to its face, opened its mouth, that mouth full of wrong teeth, and breathed on him. A long, rattling exhale that sounded like wind through broken trees. Wilson went limp, not unconscious, but compliant, docile. His arms dropped to his sides, his weapon fell, and he just let the creature hold him, no resistance, no fear, like he'd been hypnotized. "Wilson!" Chadwick was firing. We all were, shooting the not deer holding Wilson, but our rounds weren't doing anything. They were hitting. We could see the impacts, see the blood. Yes, they bled, dark red, almost black. But the creature wasn't reacting, wasn't dropping, wasn't even slowing. It turned and ran back toward the tree line, carrying Wilson, moving on 2 legs like a man carrying a child. Other. Not deer closed ranks behind it, blocking our line of fire. And then they were in the forest. Gone. Wilson gone with them. "Did you see that?" Rodriguez demanded. It breathed on him and he just stopped fighting. Some kind of chemical weapon, Santos suggested. Pheromones or gas or something that affects the brain. Makes you docile. Or it's something worse, Mitchell said. Some kind of mental control, hypnosis. Those things can talk. Maybe they can do other things. Things we don't understand. Doesn't matter what it is, Chadwick said. What matters is we're down to 7, and those things just showed they can take us whenever they want. We need better defensive position. We need to get somewhere they can't surround us. Where? I asked. We're in the middle of their territory. Everything around us is forest. They own the forest. Chadwick pulled out his map, studied it with a red lens flashlight. There, 3 clicks northwest, old fire tower, stone foundation, metal structure. We get there, we get elevation, we get hard cover. We hold until daylight, then extract. 3 clicks through forest they control, Rodriguez said. We'll never make it. We stay here, we die or worse, Chadwick replied. At least moving gives us a chance. We go now, fast and quiet as possible. Buddy teams. Nobody gets separated. We moved out. 7 Marines, 3 clicks to salvation. Not deer all around us in the darkness. We should have waited for dawn. Should have held position until we had daylight. But Chadwick was right. Staying in that valley meant dying. So we moved. Buddy teams. Chadwick with Mitchell. Santos with Rodriguez. Williams with Private Oliver Hayes. Me with Lance Corporal Jennifer Price. We stayed close, maintained visual contact, moved as quietly as full combat load allows through a dark forest. They followed us. Of course they did. We could see them in the trees, hear them moving parallel to our route, but they didn't attack. Not immediately. They were playing with us, hurting us again, testing us, learning how we moved, how we reacted, how we fought. An hour into the movement, we'd covered maybe a click and a half. Halfway to the fire tower. Dawn was still 2 hours away. We were exhausted, running on adrenaline and fear and training, but we were making progress. That's when they took Hayes. He was moving with Williams through a section of dense undergrowth. I heard Williams curse, looked back. Hayes was gone. Just gone. 1 second he was there, next second empty space. No sound, no struggle, like he'd been erased. "Hayes!" Williams was shouting. "Oliver!" "Quiet!" Chadwick hissed. "You're giving away our position." "They already know our position. They took Hayes." We formed a hasty perimeter, scanning, looking for any sign of Hayes. Nothing. The forest was silent except for our breathing. Even the not deer seemed to have disappeared. Then we heard Hayes scream from somewhere ahead of us, deep in the forest. Not a pain scream, a terror scream, the kind of scream that comes from seeing something your mind can't process. It lasted maybe 5 seconds, then cut off abruptly. Silence. "We have to go get him," William said. "No," Chadwick replied. "That's what they want. Split us up, pick us off one by one. Hayes is gone. We keep moving. We don't leave Marines behind. Hayes is dead or taken. We go after him. We all die. We complete the mission. We get to that tower. We survive. That's the mission now." Williams looked like he wanted to argue. But Chadwick was right, and we all knew it. Going into the forest after Hayes meant losing more Marines, meant playing their game by their rules. We had to keep moving. 6 of us now. Anderson, Foster, Wilson, Hayes. 4 Marines gone in less than 3 hours. 50% casualties. The worst loss rate I'd ever seen outside of combat footage from Fallujah. We reached the fire tower at 0600. Dawn was just starting to break, pale gray light filtering through the trees. The tower was exactly what Chadwick had described. Stone foundation building about 20 feet square, metal scaffold tower rising another 60 feet to an observation platform at the top. "Secure the foundation," Chadwick ordered. "Price, Williams, check the tower structure. Make sure it's sound. Everyone else, defensive positions. We hold here until full daylight, then reassess." The stone building had steel doors, locked. Santos kicked them in. Inside was abandoned equipment, old fire watch gear, chairs, a table, some rotting paperwork. One room, windows on all sides with metal shutters, defensible. "Contact," Mitchell said from the north window. "They're here." I looked out. The not deer were gathering at the tree line surrounding the tower. Dozens of them, maybe more than we'd seen before. Standing, watching, waiting for something. "Sunrise in 20 minutes, Chadwick said. "They haven't attacked us during daylight yet. Maybe they can't. Maybe they're nocturnal. We hold until sunrise. They might leave." We held. 6 Marines, weapons trained on windows, watching the not deer watch us. They didn't approach, didn't charge, just stood there in the growing light. 15 minutes to sunrise. The sky was getting brighter. I could see colors now, the red of turning leaves, the gray of the stone, the normal browns and greens of the forest, and the not deer. In better light, the wrongness was more obvious. They looked like someone had described a deer to an alien who'd never seen one, and the alien tried to recreate it from memory. Almost right, but fundamentally wrong in ways that made your brain rebel against processing the image. 10 minutes to sunrise. They were moving now, not attacking, but positioning, surrounding the tower completely, cutting off any escape route. Some were climbing trees, getting elevation, looking down at us. 5 minutes to sunrise. The eastern sky was orange and pink. Beautiful dawn. Last dawn some of us would see. Then the large one, the one that had spoken before, stepped forward, stood upright, extended its impossible neck to look directly at our second-floor windows. "Sunrise will not save you," it said in that broken English. "Daylight will not save you. We are not afraid of light." And as the sun broke the horizon, as full daylight hit the forest, the not deer charged. All of them, maybe 60 or 70 creatures, running on 2 legs and 4 legs, climbing the tower structure, hitting the stone walls, testing the shutters. And we were firing, all 6 of us, full auto, controlled bursts, every shot hitting, every round finding targets. They bled, they fell, but they didn't stop. For every one we dropped, 2 more took its place. They were climbing over their own dead, using corpses as ladders, getting higher, getting closer. "Fall back," Chadwick ordered. "Up the tower, higher ground." We ran for the tower stairs. Metal steps spiraling up the scaffold structure, 60 feet to the top observation platform. Williams went first, then Price, then Rodriguez, then Mitchell, then Santos. Me last with Chadwick covering. I was 20 feet up when I heard Price scream. Looked up. One of them had climbed the outside of the tower, was on the platform, had grabbed Price, was pulling her over the railing. Williams tried to help, grabbed her arms, tried to pull her back. But the Not Deer was stronger. It yanked, and Price went over. Fell 60 feet, hit the ground with a sound I'll never forget. Williams started firing down at the creature. Hit it multiple times. It fell off the tower. But more were climbing. 3 of them now on the outside structure, moving up toward the platform. "Keep climbing," Chadwick was shouting. "Get to the platform. Defensive positions." We reached the top, 5 of us now. Price dead below. The observation platform was maybe 10 feet square. Metal floor. Waist-high railing. 360-degree view. Nowhere to hide. And they were coming up, climbing the tower from all sides. Maybe 10 of them, moving fast. Those 3-fingered hands gripping the metal structure. Those red eyes fixed on us. "Grenades!" Chadwick pulled a frag. "Blow the stairs!" Santos pulled his grenade. They cooked them, held for 2 seconds before throwing. The grenades tumbled down the stairwell, exploded halfway down. The metal stairs sheared off, collapsed, crashed to the ground, cut off that approach route. But the Not Deer climbing the outside didn't care. They kept coming. We're 20 feet below us now, 15, 10. We fired down at them, point-blank range. Couldn't miss. But there were so many, and they weren't stopping, weren't afraid, weren't behaving like any animal I'd ever encountered. The first one reached the platform, pulled itself over the railing, stood upright, opened its mouth showing those teeth, and Williams shot it in the face. 3 round burst. The back of its skull exploded. It fell, but 2 more were right behind it. "We're going to die here," Mitchell said. It wasn't panic, just statement of fact. "Not yet," Chadwick replied. "We hold this platform. We make every shot count. We survive until help arrives." "Nobody knows we're in trouble," Rodriguez pointed out. "We're not supposed to extract for another week. Nobody's coming." Chadwick didn't answer. Because Rodriguez was right. We were alone. 60 feet up a fire tower, surrounded by things that shouldn't exist, running out of ammunition, running out of time. And the sun was fully up now, full daylight. And the Not Deer didn't care, they just kept coming. They came over the railing like a wave, 3 of them simultaneously. We fired. Point-blank range. Couldn't miss. Hit them center mass, heads, anywhere we could put rounds. They fell. But more were right behind them. "Conserve ammo!" Chadwick shouted. "Controlled bursts! Pick your targets!" We were fighting on a 10-foot square platform 60 feet in the air. 6 Marines against an enemy that climbed like spiders and didn't fear heights or bullets. Every tactical advantage we'd ever trained for was useless. This wasn't Fallujah. This wasn't Helmand. This was something our training manuals never covered. Williams was on the north side. He dropped to one knee, using the railing for support, firing methodical 3-round bursts. One of the Not Deer came over directly in front of him. He shot it. It fell. Another one appeared. He shot it. It fell. Mechanical, professional, like he was on a rifle range, until one grabbed his rifle barrel. I saw it happen. Saw the Not Deer's 3-fingered hand close around the muzzle of Williams' M4. Saw Williams try to pull back. But the creature was stronger. It yanked, pulled the rifle, and Williams toward the railing. Williams tried to let go. Too late. The creature pulled him over. Williams fell. 60 feet, landed on the stone foundation below, didn't move after that. "Williams!" Santos was screaming. "Jake! Focus!" Chadwick grabbed Santos. "He's gone. Focus on staying alive." 5 of us now. Anderson, Foster, Wilson, Hayes, Price, Williams. 6 casualties in less than 4 hours. The odds were clear. The math was simple. We were losing. They were winning. It was just a matter of time. "We can't hold this position," Rodriguez said. He was firing at Not Deer climbing the southeast support. "We're out of grenades. We're low on ammunition. They just keep coming. We need another plan." "What plan?" Mitchell demanded. "Jump, die from the fall instead of dying from them." "The crane," I said. Pointed to the old fire equipment crane attached to the east side of the tower, used for hauling supplies up when the tower was operational. Long boom extending out over the forest. Cable system still intact. We could use it to get down, rappel to the tree canopy, climb down from there. "That cable hasn't been tested in probably 20 years, Santos said. "It could snap, drop us right into them. Or it holds, and we get out of this death trap," I countered. "They control the ground, they control the tower, but they're not in the trees, not above ground level. We get into the canopy, move from tree to tree, we might be able to—" A Not Deer came over the west railing. Santos turned, fired, click, empty magazine. He reached for a reload. The creature was faster. It grabbed him, those 3-fingered hands closing around his throat, lifted him off the ground. Santos was punching it, kicking it, trying to break free. Rodriguez shot it. Chest, head, 3 rounds each. The Not Deer's grip loosened, dropped Santos. But another one was already coming over the same railing. And another. They were overwhelming us with numbers. "The crane," Chadwick decided. "Now! Stone, Rodriguez, Mitchell, get on that cable. Santos, cover them." Santos was gasping, rubbing his throat where the creature had grabbed him. But he nodded, raised his rifle. New magazine, fired at the Not Deer still coming. I ran to the crane, old steel boom extending 40 feet out from the platform. Cable hanging down with a hook on the end. I grabbed the hook, tested the cable, pulled hard. It held, probably. "This is insane," Mitchell said. "Everything about this is insane," I replied. "But it's better than staying here." I hooked my gear onto the cable, climbed over the railing, started sliding down. The cable held. I descended 30 feet, 40, reached the tree canopy, branches below me. I swung, let go, landed in a thick oak. Branches caught me. I was in the trees now, 60 feet off the ground but alive. Hidden in the foliage. "It holds," I shouted up. "Come on!" Mitchell came next. Hooked in, slid down, made it to the canopy. Dropped into the trees near me. We were moving now, climbing through branches, putting distance between us and the tower. Rodriguez was hooking in when I heard Santos scream. Not a pain scream, a rage scream. He was fighting something. I looked back at the platform. could barely see through the branches. But I saw enough. The Not Deer had overwhelmed the platform. There were at least 10 of them up there now, and Santos was in the middle of them. Fighting, still fighting. Rodriguez started to unhook. "I have to help him." "No!" Chadwick grabbed Rodriguez. "He's buying us time. Don't waste it. Go!" Rodriguez slid down the cable. Chadwick was last. He was covering Santos, firing at the Not Deer surrounding him. But there were too many. Santos went down under a pile of bodies, disappeared from view. Chadwick hooked in, started sliding, and the cable snapped. Not all the way, but partially. 20 years of weather and rust and stress, it frayed, started to separate. Chadwick was halfway down when I heard the metal strands popping. Saw him drop 5 feet, 10. The cable caught, held, but barely. "Chadwick, move, it's breaking." He slid faster, racing the cable failure, 20 feet from the canopy, 15. The cable popped again, dropped him another few feet, 10 feet from safety, 5. The cable snapped completely. Chadwick fell. 15 feet. Crashed through branches, hit hard, but the tree caught him. He was alive. Hurt, but alive. 4 of us in the trees now. Santos dead on the platform. Williams, Price, Hayes, Wilson, Foster, Anderson. 7 Marines gone. "Move," Chadwick gasped. Blood on his face from the fall. East. Away from the tower. Through the canopy. Don't touch the ground. We moved. Through the trees. Branch to branch. 60 feet up. It was dangerous. Could fall any moment. But the ground was worse. The ground belonged to them. We could see them below us. The Not Deer, standing at the base of the tower, looking up. They knew where we were, but they weren't following. Not yet. Maybe they couldn't climb trees. Maybe they were waiting for us to come down. We covered maybe 300 yards. Slow movement, testing each branch before trusting our weight to it. Mitchell was in front, I was second. Rodriguez third, Chadwick bringing up rear, moving slower because of his injuries. "I see a clearing," Mitchell called back. "Maybe 200 yards ahead. Looks like a road. If we can reach it." "They're climbing," Rodriguez said. "Behind us. They're climbing the trees." I looked back, and I saw them, Not Deer, in the trees. Moving through the branches like they'd been doing it their whole lives. Fast, too fast. They were going to catch us. "Move," Chadwick ordered. "Fast as you can. Get to that clearing." We scrambled through the canopy. Speed over caution now. Jumping gaps. Trusting branches that might not hold. Behind us, the Not Deer were closing. I could hear them. Hear branches breaking. Hear that backwards language they spoke. They were coordinating, flanking us, cutting off escape routes. Mitchell jumped a gap, made it, kept moving. I jumped, made it. Rodriguez jumped. The branch on the far side broke. He fell. 40 feet, straight down. Crashed through lower branches, hit the ground hard. "Rodriguez!" I was shouting. "James!" He wasn't moving, wasn't responding. And the Not Deer on the ground were moving toward him. Fast. We couldn't help him, couldn't go down. That's what they wanted. "Keep moving!" Chadwick was behind me. "We stop. We all die. Go!" I went, hated myself for it. But I went, Mitchell ahead, Chadwick behind. We moved through the trees, left Rodriguez behind. Just like we'd left Santos. Just like we'd left all the others. 3 Marines out of 10. 30% survival rate. Worst I'd ever seen. Worst I ever wanted to see. "There," Mitchell pointed. "The clearing. I can see pavement." She was right. Through the trees ahead, I could see open space. See the gray of asphalt. A road, civilization, Escape. We reached the edge of the tree line, 60 feet up. Road below us. No easy way down. But better than staying in the trees with the not deer closing in. Jump, Chadwick said. Aim for the ditch. Roll when you hit. It's 20 feet to the road. We can make that. That's insane, I said. Everything about this is insane. Jump. Mitchell jumped first. Fell 20 feet. Hit the ditch. Rolled. Came up limping but alive. I jumped, landed hard. Something in my ankle popped, but I was alive. Chadwick jumped last, landed wrong. Cried out, didn't get up. Legs broken, he gasped. Both of you run. Get to the road. Flag down a vehicle. Get help. We're not leaving you. That's an order, Corporal. Run. Mitchell grabbed my arm, pulled me up. We ran. Limping, injured, but running. Reached the road. It was empty, middle of nowhere. But it was a road. Roads meant people. Meant civilization. Meant possible rescue. I looked back. Chadwick was still in the ditch, trying to stand. Couldn't. And the not deer were coming out of the forest. A dozen of them moving toward him. Chadwick saw them. Raised his rifle. Run, he shouted at us. Get out of here. We ran. Down the road. As fast as our injured legs could carry us. I heard gunfire behind us. Chadwick shooting. Holding them off. Buying us time like Santos had. Like all the others had. The gunfire stopped. We kept running. Half a mile down the road, we heard an engine. Truck coming toward us. Mitchell stepped into the road, waving her arms. The truck stopped, old pickup. Local guy, maybe 60. Jesus Christ, what happened to you two? Attacked, Mitchell gasped. In the forest. Need help. Need to call for rescue. Get in. I'll take you to the ranger station. They can... No, I said. Not the ranger station. Police. Military. Anyone but forest rangers. They won't understand. They won't believe. The man looked at us. Saw our uniforms. Saw the blood. Saw the terror in our eyes. Okay. I'll take you to the state police, 5 miles up the road. We got in. The truck started moving. I looked back toward the forest, toward where we'd left Chadwick, toward where 7 of our brothers had died or been taken. The forest looked normal, beautiful even. October leaves, morning sun, peaceful. You'd never know that forest killed Marines. You'd never know things lived in there that looked like deer until they didn't. You'd never know the truth unless you'd seen it yourself. And even then, you might not believe it. The truck drove us away from Daniel Boone National Forest, away from the not deer, away from the worst 24 hours of my life. But I knew the not deer were still there, still in those mountains, still waiting for the next group of people who didn't believe the warnings. Who thought they understood nature, who thought they were safe. They weren't. Nobody was safe in those woods. And the locals had been trying to tell us all along. The Kentucky State Police didn't believe us. Not at first. 2 blood-covered Marines babbling about deer that walk on 2 legs and speak broken English. They thought we were in shock, delusional, experiencing some kind of shared psychosis. Then they sent a search team into Daniel Boone National Forest to find the other 8 Marines. And that search team came back different, quieter, refusing to make eye contact, refusing to discuss what they'd seen. We found remains, the lead investigator told us 3 days later. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 72 hours. Some of your team, not all, and the condition of the remains, the way they were positioned, the tracks around them. I've been a cop for 26 years. I've seen murder scenes, accidents, animal attacks. This wasn't any of those things. Did you see them? Mitchell asked. The not deer? The investigator was quiet for a long moment. Then, I saw something. I don't know what it was, don't want to know, but I saw enough to understand you weren't making it up. Something's in those woods, something that shouldn't exist, and we're not going back in there. We're declaring the area a rescue suspension zone, too dangerous for recovery operations. So they didn't recover all the bodies. Anderson, Foster, Williams, Price, they got those remains, what was left of them. But Wilson, Hayes, Santos, Rodriguez, Chadwick, those bodies stayed in the forest, stayed with the Not Deer, whatever they wanted them for. The Marine Corps arrived 4 hours after the state police declared the suspension. Military Intelligence, Criminal Investigation Division, officers who asked questions with answers they'd already decided on. "Let me make sure I understand your report," the major said. He was mid-40s, crisp uniform, the kind of officer who'd never seen combat but thought he understood it. "You're claiming your team was attacked by cryptids, creatures that resemble deer but stand upright, speak English, exhibit tactical coordination, and these creatures killed or captured 8 United States Marines in less than 24 hours. "Yes, sir," I said. "That's exactly what happened." "Corporal Stone, do you understand how that sounds? Do you understand what you're asking me to put in an official report?" "I understand it sounds insane, sir, but it's the truth. Private Mitchell will confirm everything I've said." The major looked at Mitchell. She nodded. "Every word, sir. I saw them. We both did. The state police search team saw them too, even if they won't admit it in writing. The state police saw something. In traumatic situations, people see what they expect to see, what their mind creates to explain the unexplainable. I'm not questioning your honesty. I'm questioning your interpretation of events." "Our interpretation?" Mitchell's voice went hard. "Sir, with respect, we didn't interpret anything. We saw bipedal creatures that looked like deer, moved like predators, spoke in broken English and killed our entire team. That's not interpretation. That's observation." "Private, I'm going to give you and Corporal Stone some advice. The same advice I'd give any Marine who'd experienced severe trauma. The official report is going to state that your team encountered unexpected environmental hazards during mountain training. Multiple casualties resulted from falls, exposure, and possible animal attacks. That's the story that protects your careers. That's the story that honors your fallen brothers without making the Marine Corps look incompetent or delusional." "You're covering it up," I said flatly. "I'm protecting you, both of you. You write a report about cryptids and speaking deer, you get medical discharge for psychological unfitness. You lose your benefits. You spend the rest of your lives being the crazy Marines who saw monsters in Kentucky. Or you accept that what you experienced was traumatic and confusing, that you did your best in impossible circumstances, and that 8 Marines died in a training accident. Which version helps more people?" He was right. In a sick, calculated way, he was right. The truth wouldn't bring back the 8 Marines we'd lost, wouldn't change what happened, would just destroy our credibility and bury the story even deeper. "Training accident," Mitchell said quietly. "That's the official story. That's the official story. You'll both receive medical treatment for PTSD counseling, whatever you need. But the cryptid angle, that gets classified, sealed, and forgotten. Except we couldn't forget. Couldn't unsee what we'd seen. Couldn't unhear those voices speaking broken English. Couldn't stop wondering what the Not Deer wanted with the bodies they'd taken. With Wilson, who'd been breathed on and gone docile. With Hayes, who'd screamed before going silent. I spent 8 months in therapy, talking to military psychologists who attributed everything to stress and trauma and grief. They meant well, but they couldn't help because they didn't believe. They thought the Not Deer were constructs of our traumatized minds. Symbols our brains created to process the deaths of our team. They were wrong. The not deer were real. Are real. Still in those Kentucky mountains. Still hunting. Still taking people who don't believe the warnings. Mitchell and I stayed in touch after we were both medically separated from the Marines. Neither of us could handle staying in combat units anymore. Not after what we'd seen, not after losing so many friends in one night. We met up about a year after the incident. Coffee shop in Lexington, Kentucky. Far enough from Daniel Boone Forest to feel safe. Close enough to feel the pull of unfinished business. I went back to Slade, Mitchell admitted. The town where we staged, talked to that old woman at the gas station, the one who warned us. What did she say? She said she was sorry. Said she tried to warn us, but we didn't listen. Nobody ever listens until they see for themselves. She told me the not deer have been in those mountains for generations, long before white settlers, long before the Cherokee. They're old, ancient, and they're protective of the deep forest. You respect their territory, they leave you alone. You trespass, you die. Did she say what they are? Where they come from? She doesn't know. Nobody knows. They're just part of the mountains, part of Kentucky, like the rocks and the trees and the rivers. You accept they exist, and you avoid them. That's how the locals survive. And the people they take? Wilson, Hayes, the others? Mitchell looked away. She wouldn't talk about that. Said some questions don't have answers we'd want to hear. Said the forest keeps what the forest takes. Said we should be grateful we got out and we should never go back. I thought about that a lot over the next few years. The forest keeps what the forest takes. Wilson, Hayes, Santos, Rodriguez, Chadwick, the forest kept them. What did that mean? Were they dead? Transformed? Added to the not deer somehow? I didn't know, didn't want to know. But I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd said at the beginning of this nightmare. When we first arrived in Kentucky, when we were still 10 Marines instead of 2 survivors, I'd said Chadwick would survive, that Mitchell would survive, that Rodriguez would survive. I was wrong about Chadwick. He died buying us time with a broken leg at the bottom of a ditch. Died shooting at things that shouldn't exist so 2 of his Marines could escape. I was wrong about Rodriguez. He fell from a tree, and the forest took him. Took him, like it took Wilson and Hayes and all the others. But I was right about Mitchell. She survived. We both did. 2 out of 10. 20% survival rate. The worst numbers of my entire military career. I researched not deer sightings after I got out. Found forums online. Reddit posts. TikTok videos. Hundreds of people describing the same things we'd seen. Deer that stand wrong. Deer that watch you. Deer with joints that bend backwards, and necks too long, and eyes that glow red. Most of the sightings were in Appalachia. Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, North Carolina. Mountain country. Deep forest. Places where old things still live. Where legends aren't just stories. And I found reports of missing people. Hikers who vanished in Daniel Boone National Forest. Hunters who never came home. Campers whose tents were found empty with no signs of struggle. The official explanations were always the same. Got lost, fell off a cliff, attacked by bears, exposure. But the locals knew. The people who lived in Slade and other mountain towns knew the real reason. The not deer. Taking people who went too deep, who stayed too long, who didn't respect the warnings. I give talks now, at veteran organizations, at cryptozoology conferences, at anywhere people will listen. I tell the story, the real story, not the training accident version. And some people believe. Some people understand. Some people take the warning seriously. But most don't. Most think I'm exaggerating. Making it up, seeking attention. They hear deer that walk upright and speak English, and they dismiss it as impossible. Just like we did when that old woman warned us at the gas station. Just like every group does until they see the not deer for themselves. And I'm okay with that. Because the people who need to hear this, the people planning to hike deep into Appalachian forests, the people who think they understand wilderness, the people who dismiss local warnings as superstition, they might remember. When they're in those mountains and they see a deer that looks wrong, they might remember this story. They might listen to that instinct that says, run. They might get out before it's too late. That's all I can do. Tell the story. Share the warning. Hope it saves someone. Because it didn't save Anderson. Foster, Wilson, Hayes, Price, Williams, Santos, Rodriguez, Chadwick, 8 Marines, good people, trained warriors, dead or taken because we didn't believe, because we thought mountain folklore was just stories, because we underestimated what lived in those woods. I carry their names with me, think about them every day, wonder what happened to the ones the forest kept, wonder if they're still out there somewhere, still in those mountains, changed into something else, or just dead, buried in unmarked graves deep in the Kentucky wilderness. The state of Kentucky quietly closed parts of Daniel Boone National Forest after our incident. Environmental concerns, they said publicly. Endangered species habitat, trail maintenance issues. But the locals know. They know those closures are because of the not deer, because something in that forest kills people, and the state doesn't want to admit it exists. The Marine Corps doesn't train in Daniel Boone anymore. They moved mountain warfare training to Colorado. Safer mountains, they said. Better facilities. But I think they know too. I think enough people saw enough things that someone high up made the call to stay out of Kentucky. That's something, at least. That's 8 Marines dying for a reason. Their deaths taught the Corps to respect what it doesn't understand. To listen to local warnings. To acknowledge that some places in this world aren't meant for humans. Some territories belong to things older than us, things that don't want us there. The not deer don't care about our weapons, our training, our confidence. They're faster, stronger, and they know those mountains better than any human ever will. They've lived there for centuries, maybe longer. They'll be there for centuries more. And they'll keep taking people who don't listen, who don't believe, who think they can survive where 8 Marines couldn't. Mitchell texted me last week, said she drove past Slade on a road trip, said she could see the mountains in the distance, said every instinct in her body was screaming to drive faster, to get away, to put as much distance between her and that forest as possible. I understood. I feel the same way whenever I'm anywhere near Appalachia, even knowing the not deer probably stay in the deep forest, even knowing they mostly leave people alone if you respect their territory. The fear is still there. The memory of that night, the sight of those things climbing the tower, the sound of Santos screaming, the feeling of being hunted by something that shouldn't exist. You don't recover from that, you just learn to live with it. I'm 30 years old now. 6 years since that October in Kentucky. 6 years since I watched most of my team die or disappear in less than 24 hours. 6 years carrying the weight of being one of 2 survivors. Sometimes people ask me if I believe in cryptids, if I think Bigfoot is real, if I think the Loch Ness Monster exists. And I tell them I don't believe. I know. I've seen things in this world that aren't supposed to exist. Things that science can't explain. Things that live in the places we avoid, the deep forests, the remote mountains, the areas where humans don't go. And I know those things are dangerous. Not in the way bears or wolves are dangerous. Those are natural predators, understandable, predictable. The not deer are dangerous in a different way. They're intelligent, strategic, patient. They study you, learn you, wait for the perfect moment to strike. We never had a chance once we entered their territory. They were always going to hunt us. The only question was how many of us would die before the survivors escaped. 8 died. 2 escaped, and the forest kept what the forest took. If you're planning to hike in Appalachian mountains, listen to the locals. When they warn you about areas to avoid, believe them. When they tell you to leave, if you see deer that look wrong, listen. When your instincts tell you something isn't right, trust them. Don't be like us. Don't think your training or your weapons or your modern understanding of nature will protect you. It won't. Not against things that have lived in those mountains since before America existed. Not against predators that evolved to hunt in terrain you're just visiting. The not deer are real. They're in Kentucky. Probably in other Appalachian states too. And they're waiting, patient, territorial, protective of the deep forest. Respect that. Respect them. And stay out of their territory. 8 Marines didn't. 8 Marines died. Don't be number 9.